We've really got a lineup this year and a group of stars that's going to take it to the next level.
I'm Terry Quillian, and I'll be in the starting lineup every Saturday morning with my hot take of the week.
I'm the legend from the Paul Feinbaum Show, and I'm in the starting lineup.
I guess I'm Case Keeper, and I'm part of the starting lineup. Make sure to check out my college picks each week on all of our starting lineup programs.
So make sure each week you're in the starting lineup.
The starting lineup, 10:30 to 11 on ABC 3340 every Saturday morning. Welcome back to Starting Lineup. Kip Keefer, Tony Curry, special guest in between. His name is Corey from Spy for Rent. We'll talk to him. Of course, this is our first post-Super Bowl show, Kip. And, of course, our first and only number one versus number two, Alabama and Auburn basketball today.
Alabama, the basketball capital of the world. How about that? Eat your heart out, UNC and Duke and all you Atlantic Coast hosers. We have got the big game day in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be great. Do you know, Tony, this is the first time since 2008 that game day has been at a site with a number one against number two game.
Wow.
And there's an interesting aspect to that. It wasn't Alabama or Auburn, but one of the participants, Bruce Pearl, with Tennessee, who was number two, was at number one Memphis. So Bruce Pearl is the common denominator in this week's 1-2 matchup.
And you get this feeling this may not be the last time we have a number one versus number two in this state right now. It looks like it may go on for years, which is a great thing.
Greg Sankey even said last summer maybe if they expanded again, they would look at really capitalizing on this basketball momentum. He mentioned Duke and North Carolina and Kansas as possible teams that they would look at expanding to. Can you imagine an SEC with Kentucky and North Carolina and Duke and Alabama? Good grief.
There's no telling. It's going to be awesome. Something else awesome is, of course, our great clients we have on the show. And Spy for Rent is, and I always say whenever I'm doing Tony Curry Radio, and you're obviously on it, Kip, you do need to know. And, of course, the Kiefer and Curry Show, I endorse and I use every service that I talk about and provide on my radio station, including Spy for Rent. I would have never thought in a million years that I'd ever need a private investigator or a spy. Corey at Spy for Rent, Spy for Rent, that's FORRent.com.
So if I see Corey in my neighborhood, I need to get nervous. Keep an eye on him.
You probably do, or do a bug sweep, one of the two. 790-3051, 790-3051. You do cheating scandals. We talked about murders, and I think a lot of people think of private investigators and spying. They think about the Rockford Files and, of course, Magnum PI, stuff like that. But you're utilized for so many other things as opposed to some of those big things. Yeah, we have cheating cases, we have those things. But just talk about some of the other things you get phone calls about at Spy for Rent.
So one of the things trending up, Tony, is elderly abuse. It's we're getting more people in nursing homes. The population's aging. And unfortunately, not all the facilities are treating our elderly as they should. And so we're doing a lot of investigations on that. Another thing is business. We do a lot of stuff with business, from background checks, pre-employment screenings, to say you're going to partner with somebody and there's a lot of money on the table. You might want to find out what they're really about. So that could go from a simple background check to $100 to you could be spending thousands of dollars because you got thousands of dollars invested in this person and or this entity. There's a lot of people, fraudsters, that change their business names and stuff too. So there's a case that we were talking about yesterday with the dog trainer, for instance. So if you're going to leave your animal, your kid, or have a business dealing that's going to mean a lot to you, you probably should do your due diligence and check on that entity or the people involved with that.
You brought up a case yesterday on Tony Curry Radio about a woman who was fixing to marry a man. And obviously you'd think they'd know each other well enough if they're obviously going to get married. And come to find out, this guy was married to 3 other individuals, dating 5 other different women, and it swindled every one of them.
Yep.
And she just thought, you know what, I'm just going to make sure something doesn't seem right, make sure this guy's on the up and up. And thank goodness she used your service to get that done.
Yeah, it saved her a lot of money. It's not being paranoid. It's just,
smart.
Yeah.
It's that gut.
So you've got to, anytime marriage, that's a big thing, why not do a background check on him? Especially if he's from out of town, he's not from the area, you don't have a lot of people to reference. So he could seem like a great person, or she even, and especially if you have some money on the line, say you're a very wealthy individual, that you've got a lot to risk. Or say you already have kids, you bring somebody into your life with your kids, that's priceless. You can't put a price tag on that. So you need to make sure that they're really who they present themselves to be.
So Kip, when you're out dating these women, and these women say they work for
Some guys marrying 4 or 5 of them. No wonder I can't get any action.
they say they're working for the government and they're a spy and they can't tell you where they're working, but they're going to be gone for the next 6 weeks. Don't call me. You know you probably got something on. You got a question for Corey? Go ahead.
It just makes sense. Like I said, the word is smart. If you're making big life decisions, this is a preventative step. This is something that's just in your interest. You need to know everything about whoever it is that you're about to get involved with. I have far too much TV. I see so many of these crime shows where these women get just obsessed with these guys that turn out to be the biggest rat swindlers in the world. And man, I can't think of a more valuable service than to make sure that you have that reassurance this guy's who he says he is, or woman. It goes both ways.
I mean, guys get taken a lot with, and I hate to say it, the demographic's usually older, so it's usually the kids calling me about the estate, right? Mm-hmm. And my dad's, dating somebody. He's talking to somebody online in the chat room, and he thinks it's some Ukrainian girl or some Filipino girl or something like that. And it's really a dude behind a computer. And so, and that's what they're doing. I'm at the airport, but my visa's messed up. Can you send me another $1,000?
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, I can certainly see that be a big problem. Corey's from Spy for Rent, 790-3051. They're right here in Birmingham. They are known from every attorney in the state, every judge in the state, the people have been utilizing them for a long period of time. You also do a lot of fraudulent cases. I think that's really interesting too. One of those things that we talk about insurance all the time, particularly on Tony Curry Radio, because there's so much fraudulent activity. And right now insurance is going through the roof with our floods and everything else. Talk a little bit about that and how you guys are involved in that.
So we usually work with the insurance company. So, you see those billboard lawyers. Sometimes we work for them, the Schnorrs, the Whittemore Keith, whatnot. But insurance, the reason insurance is going up, it's a business. And your premiums are going up because a lot of this fraud that's happening in there. So whether it's usually not like, somebody gets hurt, but they exaggerate the extent that they're hurt. If I just tweak my back, it doesn't mean that I can't work for the rest of my life. And so that company, however they set up the insurance, the company, you got Walmarts of the world, the Publixes of the world and stuff like that. They might be on the hook for 20 years trying to pay for this person. So obviously that cost is going to go to you. So we'll do stuff, surveillance, we'll do stuff on the internet, because a lot of times, like Ben was saying, he caught that girl twerking that had the back problems that couldn't work, but she was twerking in Mobile.
Yeah.
Putting on social media.
No working, a lot of twerking.
A little working, a lot of twerking. Yeah, you'd be surprised what people do, and of course they're getting that insurance check, that money. They just eventually got to go out and do some dancing. Kip, it just happens that way.
We can vouch for this guy and his organization. So you take our assurance. If you have needs in this area, Corey and his guys are the people to call.
No, and I've utilized their service, and I think you'd be pleasantly surprised how many people do use your service. Of course, I know your face, even with the glasses off, so I know. And they're very stealthy individuals. Jeff Hammock, who of course has been a friend of ours, has been on this show several times, been with Tony Curry Radio for 4 or 5 years. He's one of those guys, man. He can sit in a room and you don't know he's there for like 3 or 4 hours. It's a wonderful ability. It's a great gift to have that stealthy thing going on. Speaking of stealthy, we get the marquee matchups of the weekend, and of course, one thing that's not been stealthy is the defense, both Alabama and Auburn. They like to get up and down the floor, but that defense is going to have to shore it up. And we were talking before the show what that line was going to probably be, 1.5, 2 points maybe, because it's a home game for Alabama. But give me your marquee matchups.
Well, the SEC has become the focus of the whole country. We may have as many as 8, 9, 10 teams in the tournament. Big games every week on the weekdays and the Saturdays. In the marquee matchups this week, of course, Alabama number 1 or 2, depending on which poll you go with. Auburn the other. Whoever wins this game is going to be number 1 in every poll. That's the big game, of course, Saturday, 3 o'clock at Coleman Coliseum. I wish we had a nicer arena on campus. There's no excuse for that barn still being the home Alabama basketball, but that's another rant for another day. Also in the SEC, number 3 Florida, Tony. They're back home hosting South Carolina, a team that has a bad record, but they've been so close to having so many upsets this year. That's a tough game. Carolina hasn't been very good on the road, but they're at Florida. You've got another game you wouldn't think would be a marquee matchup, but number 19 Ole Miss hosts number 23 Mississippi State.
Unbelievable.
This is a game where both of these teams could be in the NCAA tournament, and whoever loses this game may put themselves a little bit behind the 8 ball. And the other stop in the SEC is the other game I'd like is another in-state rivalry where Vanderbilt goes to Tennessee. The Volunteers really need a win now. They've lost a couple in a row. They got beat by Kentucky. They're number 5 right now, but they need a big win over Vanderbilt to kind of keep that position. So huge basketball weekend in the SEC.
Step back into the groove and then into the Birmingham Racecourse Casino.
Check this out. It's all happening here.
The Birmingham Racecourse Casino is the local place to win.
Good times right here.
Let the Birmingham Racecourse Casino bring the good times to you. The Birmingham Racecourse Casino, where the good times roll.
Where you could be a winner too. Yeah, boy.
Oh, welcome to the Legend Cave, where few men have ever stood. I'm not 100% today. I have 2 busted eardrums. The flu tried to take me out 2 weeks ago, tried to take the legend out. But I'm about 30% today, but I love you so much that I'm here in the starting lineup. It's an honor to be a part of the Golden Boys, to be a part of a real, down-to-earth, giving it to you, 100% real sports team every Saturday like nobody else in the nation. Kip Keeper, Tony Curry, the legend. We love you guys. That's why I'm here. Want to give a special shout-out to the Carbon Hill gang, David Legend down there, and a guy named Joe Thornton. Joe, shout-out to you for watching the show every Saturday. Love you guys. Let's talk about the game of the century. Woo! Did you ever think that in the state of Alabama, you'd have number 1 Alabama, and number 1A Auburn? That's right, in the Legend Cave, Auburn's never ahead of Alabama, ladies and gentlemen. Never gonna happen. But today, the game of the century, Alabama against Auburn. The 2 deepest, best teams in the country right here today for the state of Alabama. A war like no other. 2 gladiators coming together today in this state. Are you excited? Oh, the legend is, I got my colors on. We better put a foot in that Auburn Tiger and run that coach back down there to a barbecue in Auburn somewhere today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be number 1 at the end of the day. Mark Sears, Aiden Holloway, Grant Nelson, all the list goes on and on. And during this day of great celebration, I'd just like to take a moment to thank Auburn University for Aiden Holloway. What a gift. I didn't know you loved us so much. Thank you so much for Aiden Holloway. It's the game of the century. Are you ready? Oh, I'm 30%, but every 30% of me is ready. Let's talk a little football now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get out of here without football. Ryan Grubb. Yes. Woo! Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Bear. Ryan Grubb. Finally a football coach at the University of Alabama. All this is an offensive genius, ladies and gentlemen. A man that knows football inside and out. Finally, there's a coach worthy to wear the crimson and white. I'm excited. Might be Ty Simpson. It might be Keon Russell. Don't forget about Austin Mack. This is a team that can win it all, ladies and gentlemen. We finally got a real coach in Ryan Grubb. And I'm excited, ladies and gentlemen, about the future of Alabama football. Now let's take a little time out. Just a little tired. Take a little time out, catch our breath a second, and let's go back to the game of the century. Auburn with Jay Broome. Auburn coming down there today with Caldwell. Going up against Grant Nelson. Going up against Mark Sears. It's the game of the century. There'll never be a basketball day in the state of Alabama like this ever again, ladies and gentlemen. It's a day of celebration. But most of all, it's a day when the Crimson Tide tells the nation, we're no longer just a football school. But now we are also a basketball school. Yes, like Florida years ago, we can win them in football. Now we can win them in basketball, baby. And it's time, Greg Burns, to build that man, the greatest coach that ever walked the sideline at Alabama. No disrespect, Will. But it's time to build Nate Oates an arena and call it Oates Arena.
Starting lineup right here on ABC 3340. You saw Corey from Spy for Rent 790-3051. They do just impeccable work. They do great. And I love them because every time we do a show on Tony Curry Radio, he brings like a lawyer on and a well-known lawyer. And all these lawyers use these guys because they need all the information they can get when it comes to a PI or spy work. They do wonderful work. Also, another business, in case your staffing needs are down a little bit, SPS, Southern Precision Staffing. Kai Gregory, of course, has been on our show. He's on with K4 Wins with us. Guy knows how to pick some basketball games himself. He does fantastic work. But if you need your staff to be built up, whether it's construction or anything else, 205-682-2828, 205-682-2828, where your word and your handshake still means something. They're right here in Hoover, Alabama. They serve the United States of America. And finally, our good friends down there at Sasquatch Toys and Comics. Seth still has Ed's Pet World. They're still open. It's still kicking for 50 years, but he's got this brand new place. It's a toy store. It is unbelievable. They've got everything still in the box. If you got stuff up in the attic, buy, sell, or trade. They got old watches, Battlestar Galactica, Lego bricks, all kinds of things not even touched. And of course, they have some wonderful comics down there from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Check out Sasquatch Toys and Comics in Homewood. Speaking of our fantastic K4 Wins, we've been kicking it pretty good, haven't we?
Man, I'll tell you what, K4 Wins has been on fire as far as percentage of winners. And we don't just pick games straight up. We pick against the spread. We give you the real information. I think we're hitting at about a 66% clip now, which is phenomenal. We've got yourself and my picks, along with Kai Gregory, who you just mentioned, and Case Kiefer out in Las Vegas. And we've been. I'm just going to say we've been killing it.
Yeah, K4wins.com, K4wins.com. It's a free site. Check it out. You can subscribe to it, obviously, and get part of it. We've been going all the way through. Of course, we were all over Philadelphia. We were all over that. We've been all over everything, pretty much so. So we were really, really proud of our Super Bowl records, and I think we went 8-2 on our prop bets too. So we even won some stuff on the side. So pretty good stuff. K4.
Hey, it's Case Kiefer back again from Las Vegas for another edition of the Vegas Heaters segment. I am the assistant sports editor for Las Vegas Sun, Las Vegas Weekly, Greenspun Media, longtime sports bettor and sports betting writer. And no matter how long it has been, I have never had a better Super Bowl than I did last week. Now, I know we didn't have a Vegas Heaters segment last week, but hopefully you caught my interview with Kip and Tony. I don't have an exact record because we were more free-flowing, but I feel like everything I said came true. I thought this was a terrible matchup for the Chiefs. I thought the Eagles were going to run away with it. I was anti-Saquon Barkley, pro-Jalen Hurts. We got that Jalen Hurts first touchdown. All the Saquon unders cashed. I gave out Chiefs 9-1 a year ago on the show as my first play this season, and then I bet Eagles plus 3.5 minus 160, hoping for that middle. Didn't get the middle, but it didn't even matter because the props were so good. Everything went so well. So we're definitely celebrating here in Las Vegas. And now time to turn the page, of course, if you are sports betting. And this is a time of year where I always do one thing, and I think it works out even better this year with NBA All-Star break now, the NHL on an international break. I like to dig into every single future of every single market that I would ever even think about betting, at least here in Nevada, at all the licensed books here to try to find the best prices. I usually do a write-up a little bit about what I find. I talked about it last year on the show here. This is where we famously gave out Florida and Edmonton to make the Stanley Cup, to win the Stanley Cup, and they both end up playing there, of course. So we've had some success doing that this week. I thought that's what we dive into this week. A lot more coming at LasVegasSun.com in the Las Vegas Weekly. Make sure you check that out. I'll have a lot more futures plays, a lot more stuff, and even our K4 Wins show as well. But I thought I'd share 3 things with you here. And why not start? I mentioned that Chiefs bet from a year ago this time. Why not go ahead and start for next year in the NFL, because there is no offseason with these NFL markets and how much people like to bet them and how quickly the sports books put them up. That night after Super Bowl 59, I was already looking at next year, and I have bet a team much like last year. I couldn't find one on college football. I've made no college football bets yet, so no college football futures, but there is one team I am very bullish on in the NFL, and if you have watched this show, you will be shocked because I've been the exact opposite for probably the last 4 years until this year at least. I kind of jumped on at the end. That team, to me, Tony will like this. The Cincinnati Bengals, I have already made 3 futures bets, all pro Bengals. I bet the Bengals 20-1 to win the Super Bowl next year. I bet Joe Burrow to win the MVP at plus 750 and Jamar Chase to win the Offensive Player of the Year at 12-1. If they stay healthy, I'm going to be pretty surprised if one of those 2 awards doesn't go down. I just don't know which one it's going to be, who gets the credit, so I ended up betting both. Honestly, if I had a vote this year, I might have voted for Chase over Saquon Barkley for Offensive Player of the Year. At least to me, it was super close. I thought Chase should have at least gotten 1 vote. He won the Triple Crown of receiving. That's just been totally swept under the rug. No one talks about it. If he does that again next year, he has to win the award. By the end of the year, Burrow's numbers were so much better than everybody else's. I really think that offense is going to be just as good next year. This is one of my guiding lights as far as betting futures, which I think has brought me tremendous success, especially in the last 5 years. Offense is sticky, defense is not. So the Bengals had one of the best offenses the second half of the season. They've had one of the best offenses the last 3 or 4 years now. I think that's going to be. Defense, you could see a much quicker turnaround, especially when you have kind of a catalyzing force, like we're going to see Al Golden come in, Lou Anarumo out. I think they will spend what capital they have to make sure they improve that defense, hopefully bring back Trey Hendrickson if possible, make some draft choices. You hope they hit on those draft picks, and I really like the Bengals next year. Now, there is one thing that makes me just a little bit hesitant, and of course that is the division and the fact that the Baltimore Ravens are there, who I don't care who won, I don't care what you say. I think the last 2 years the Ravens were head and shoulders clearly the best team in the NFL, just haven't broken through yet. So I might be adding some Ravens. They're just so short right now. I do think they're going to get it done one of these years, so it's tough to go against them. The other thing is they've been super, super healthy though, and it hasn't always been that way. The last 2 years they've had not many injuries. I feel like one of these years, Lamar Jackson's playing style is going to come back to bite him again. He's going to miss some games. I feel like that injury luck tends to regress, and maybe the Bengals are on the other side of that next year. So I like all things Bengals next year, my first thought on the NFL season. Next sport, let's get a little more immediate. The Daytona 500 this weekend. Now, if you bet auto racing or NASCAR at all, you know that it's basically impossible to make consistent money on these super speedways, these drafting track races. But hey, I'm going to try anyway. Biggest event of the year. And the game really has changed with the next gen car. It's a lot different of the speed and the metrics of who's been best. And there is one driver that has stood above the rest since we've gone to this car, and that is Kyle Busch on these super speedway tracks, especially Daytona. Just look at any speed metric, he's been the best. He doesn't have a win in Daytona yet, but maybe 20th time is the charm. Could he pull the Dale Earnhardt this week? I think he could. Kyle Busch, I bet at 15-1. Now, typically I like taking longer shots in these super speedway races, and that's what I have supplemented. I did bet some guys at some 40+1, or not quite 40. I believe I bet Tyler Reddick 35-1, Todd Gilliland at 45-1. Those are the 3 bets I have made right now as of time of filming. I just think Kyle Busch is going to get it done. He's entering his age 39 season, 39 typically the prime in NASCAR. I know it's a lot later than a lot of other sports, but been some really great, I believe by Motorsport Analytics a few years ago, did a report and came up with that. He doesn't have the equipment to win week in and week out anymore with Richard Childress, but I love what he's done at super speedways, and I'm going to roll the dice with Kyle Busch this week at the Daytona 500. A college sport to finish us off, not college basketball, not college football. How about college baseball, where the SEC is also dominating? I've tried to build my portfolio the last few years. I believe we've cashed futures on this show both years with an SEC team. I'm starting it this year before the games get underway. Arkansas at 15-1. I really like the Razorbacks this year. I think they really reloaded through the transfer portal. We saw a transfer portal team cut down, or not really cut down, but win the ring in college football with Ohio State. I think Arkansas had the best transfer portal class this year in baseball. So I'm starting my card with Arkansas 15-1 to win the College World Series. This has been another edition of the Vegas Heaters. Thanks for joining me.
Kip, great time of the sports year. Obviously, the National Football League is over. We had the Super Bowl last weekend. Big trades in the NBA. That's getting super hot. Man, we saw that monster trade. Obviously,
I can't believe he got chipped.
Unbelievable. But it really takes a lot for guys like us who are we consider ourselves master handicappers. When we're talking about NCAA football, you're talking about 117, 118 teams. Now we get into college hoops, man, where when you're getting on scores and odds, you're scrolling for 3 or 4 minutes on a Saturday to go through all the games. There could be 100 games. Obviously, we're talking 350-something different basketball teams that are on the number board there in Las Vegas. And so it takes a lot to look at these games, and particularly when you've got an SEC that's as hot as it is right now.
Well, the football lines come out like a week before, so you've got kind of time to absorb it all. The basketball lines come out like at midnight the night before, and you've got to really work at it.
Bama, small favorite today?
I think they're going to be probably staying right about where they are here, almost a pick'em game. Yeah. And it would probably be Auburn. I think Auburn would probably be the 3 or 4 point favorite if it was at Auburn, and they will play again there at the very end of the year. That's the last game on the SEC schedule this year, so that might be really something. But yeah, Alabama, I think, will hold on to that slight favorite spot. I think Alabama plays really well at home, and I think on just off the top of my head right now, I'm still kind of unsettled on making a pick, but I have to kind of go for Bama here. I just think Sears is the alpha male on the court.
He's coming on. He's coming on a little bit.
Yeah.
It's amazing too because listen, the basket's the same size, the floor is the same size, everything's the same size. But we talk about home field advantage, and I think in football it's about 3.5. In basketball, it's slightly more than that. Certainly in the NBA, it's unbelievable. I mean, you watch these NBA finals where they're going 7 games, and one night you're favored by 8, the next night you're an underdog by 6. You're playing the same team just because you're at their playoffs. You're starting to see the SEC really separate itself as far as a home court advantage, and it has everything to do with the fan base. The fan base is the fans that are really coming out and checking out these teams, and it's really helping that home field advantage.
Nate Oates has just done a phenomenal job at Alabama. Bruce Pearl, of course, who's had a little bit of I was about to say checkered past. Nate Oates has got the checkered present with his jackets, but Bruce had some minor rule violations and things at Tennessee. But Bruce Pearl's a great coach. Both these guys are fantastic coaches, and that's where it starts. It's no accident that Alabama and Auburn have ascended to the top of the basketball world. But it's so amazing. We heard Legend in the Cave. The transition from being so football-oriented to basketball all of a sudden is really kind of, I think, culture shock for everybody here in the state.
No, it gives you something to look forward to. I mean, football was such an encapsulated thing. It was compartmentalized in those 3 or 4 months of the year. Obviously, with signing days and now the NIL action, everything else. College football is year-round. We get that, and we love that. But to come out of a football season, which was quite disappointing for the Crimson Tide, and now to have the #1 team in the land playing hoops here in the middle of February is just what a great kiss that is. It's
so
wonderful.
Which way you leaning? Who wins the game today?
Only because it's a home field game or a home court advantage. I'd have to take Alabama. I think it's going to be super close, but I think this is a game that a lot of people are going to. I love going up and down the floor. Teams like North Texas like to hold on to the ball for shot clock reasons. I just absolutely hate. So I love to see a 93-91 game, and I think we'll get that today.
Well, just for the low price of about $750, they'll sell you a ticket up in the rafters. And Coleman Coliseum is built like this.
Let me tell you what. When was the last time you had to spend $750 on a basketball ticket anywhere in the state? Seriously.
It's really amazing to see what's happening here. And again, in the SEC, other games, other ranked teams today. Florida trying to keep it going against South Carolina. I fully expect them to cover a big number there.
South Carolina is right in the mix of every single game they're in. Every time you tune in, there's 2 minutes left, and they're down by 3. Every single time I tune in. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Tony. I'm about the most surprised of any team. I didn't think this Ole Miss team was going to be anything special. Former Texas coach Chris Beard has done a hell of a job with the Rebels. They just won 2 road games in a row at LSU and at South Carolina. You say, well, they're the 2 of the lower teams in the league. But tough. To win any game on the road in the SEC is big. Now they're back home against Mississippi State, who's also a scrappy team, number 23 in the country. Both these teams likely will be dancing.
You can start making an argument, certainly not for Alabama or Auburn, but for Mississippi State and Mississippi. More people may be watching hoops than they do the Egg Bowl.
It's amazing.
It's a possibility.
It's really something else.
Starting lineup, getting after it again every single week. Special guest. You never knew who's going to show up. The legends here. Of course, Terry, your friend's always here. Your son's getting it done out there in the desert, along with Kip Keefer and Tony Curry. This is the starting lineup every Saturday morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.